Today was the Boone Trace group gathering in Rockcastle County, beginning at the Windy Gap Base Camp, and we hiked from there down to Crooked Creek. Windy Gap Base Camp is a 2-acre plot of land that the Boone Trace group purchased a couple of years ago that has Boone Trace going right through it. On one side of the property, the trace runs through National Forest, and on the other side, it runs through a 400-acre private piece of land that is set into a land trust to preserve that section of trace for many, many years to come. And we hiked the private property side that goes from the Windy Gap Base Camp all the way down to Crooked Creek in Rockcastle County. Now, this section of the trail from Windy Gap to Crooked Creek is all downhill, and you know what that means. It's all uphill, coming all the way back out, but it's a beautiful section of trace, well preserved. Boone Trace maintenance vehicle right there. Dr. John Fox, the one and only. Boy, what Daniel Boone could have done with an ATV.
Is this an old logging road, I suppose, or something? Or? Spiritual trail, and I get this creepy feeling every time I come out here. And when you think about what happened along this very trail, and what I'd like for the groups to do is I want you just to be quiet, just to be absolutely silent for like 20 seconds and look up the trail and look down the trail, and you literally get this feeling that you're in touch with all those people that came here before. So let's just do that for a couple of seconds, and you can literally kind of see their faces coming along, struggling along, hear their voices, you know, there's the squeak of the leather on the animals and the clink and that sort of thing. So,
children complaining, I'm sure.
How much further to McDonald's?
Try to think of the uncertainty that they constantly had, you know.
Well, yeah, there's this anticipation and
dread and unknowns.
Excitement and fear and everything all at one time. But just stop for 20 seconds or a minute and let's do that. And
I got one more little thing to add to that.
Okay.
After we get done.
Right. 1, 2, 3, be quiet for like 20 seconds.
There's a wet weather creek over here to the left, just a blue line creek down there in that bottom. It's getting ready to join a larger section, and that larger section will eventually empty into Crooked Creek here in Rockcastle County. This section of trace right here obviously has been worked and reworked over the years. It's been, you can tell by the cuts, these berms here, that that would have not been something that Boone would have done. This has been, at one time, could have been a old logging road, no doubt, and even could have been an old county road for a period of time, as well as roads down into home places. So this section of trace, after the trace ceased to exist for pioneer purposes, had several years of use, and it's probably still being used today by the gentleman who owns this property. It's about a 400-acre tract. There are tracks, tractor tracks, so it's still being used. But it's good to see an old section of trace that's still Still out here in the woods for people to explore. Boone Trace group today is doing just that. Little creek crossing down here. That creek is headed on down. Got a little wider down through here where it's joining Crooked Creek on down the way. This section of Boone Trace. Waiting on me?
You got a problem with runner, huh?
A lot.
You have to beat the shit out of him or what?
Little barbed wire.
You knew your barbs, you could tell the age of it, but not me. Better just
So that's Teemer's. How you spelling that, John? Teeemer or Teamer?
Teamer.
Teemer's Cave. We're gonna go check it out. We've got off trail here just a little bit to come up here and look at the entrance to Teemer's Cave. I'm sure it's all played host to a number of pioneers back in the day.
There's some interesting graffiti back here too.
Yeah, you know, people can't hear there.
Cool. Very cool.
Could be bats down here.
Everybody, can everybody see okay with this light?
Pretty good. Yeah, cell phone light that ain't doing much.
There's some kind of footprint in here.
Well, I would say this is definitely used by bear.
There's flies right here.
Now, there's a fossilized footprint on one of these rocks. It's a three-toed creature of some kind.
Oh, it's fossilized.
Yeah.
Shine some light down in that hole there. Get some video footage.
Well, that just goes around. It goes down this direction.
Oh, okay.
But the deep hole
That's crazy.
is around the bend there.
Crazy.
Look at some of this graffiti here.
Back down there.
And that's pretty modern there.
Pretty simple that little joint.
Wow.
Yeah, somebody put it all up. There's some older graffiti.
It's nuts, man.
I'm satisfied with my curiosity here.
Oh, there's some modern graffiti, so. Amazing. Amazing. I'd say this played host to a few pioneers getting out of the weather.
Absolutely.
Incredible.
Has this been explored lately?
A little bit of a.
I'm going back as far as
Yeah.
I didn't know if this was a popular thing with this bunker.
Yeah, I mean, I'll know about it.
You can feel that temperature change, can't you?
It's refreshing.
Got water in here sometimes.
Amazing.
Yeah, you really you get to where you start to need ropes and stuff.
Yeah, I got you.
So you don't get lost and so you
Sure,
don't slip and fall.
sure.
It starts to get pretty steep around that bend right there.
Turn the steep.
Big old cave.
Amazing.
I guess it's a picture head.
That's crazy, man.
There's something I should have showed you when we first came in. I forgot to show you when we go back out.
Okay. That's wild, man.
Why don't you look at this? Look at this roof. Look how smooth. It's like marble. It's just a layer of limestone that was harder than this limestone. When it washed out, it left that perfectly flat layer that looks like.
We're sort of down here at the bottom, and right up there's the entrance we came in.
That layer was
Teamer's Cave, in Rockcastle County, along Boone Trace. You get a little bit of an idea how dark it can be in a cave. It's not total darkness because right on the other side up there's the entrance. So it gets pretty dark real quick down through there. See some of the people with flashlights down in there. All right, so try to get back out of here, back on the trail. It's an uphill climb. Here at Teamer's Cave. Look at this breath. And from the cave back down to the trace. We'll continue on toward Crooked Creek. When you finally reach the bottom of this holler here, you are getting ready to meet Crooked Creek, and the clearing down here in the bottom land. When the trace meets Crooked Creek, there's a modern day clearing anyway. That's an old county road bridge. And we've reached Crooked Creek. An old county road bridge right there.
Then you just follow on either side of that creek all the way into Madison County, and then by the time that creek hits the river, you're at Fort Boonesboro. So it's pretty.
So, let me, can I turn my face here a little bit? I want to be kind of up above him with, since he's going to talk about the bridge.
So you can start out with this is called Crooked Creek. Yeah. And you grew up here.
Okay, so from what I was told there on the banks of Crooked Creek, the trace continues, pretty much follows the creek from there on. And he says it's fairly easy to navigate upstream all the way to Boonesboro. I don't know much about that in Boone Trace, but I know this leg from the Windy Gap base camp down to Crooked Creek is definitely a very interesting hike. I decided to head out a little early from the creek and left the group standing there talking. Get a little peace and quiet hike on the way back out. Following Boone Trace back toward Windy Gap, the Windy Gap base camp. Boy, I bet this is a beauty in the wet weather season. These creeks would be rocking and rolling. And you'd have to cross them a number of times too. But that creek packs a lot of water out of here during the wet season. Windy Gap Base Camp is about a 2-acre piece of property that the Friends of Boone Trace purchased. The trace runs right through it. Cleared out a flat spot there for gatherings, and that's where we're meeting today. That's where I'm on my way back to. Headed back up, or in this case, back south on Boone Trace, back to the base camp. If you want to be a supporter of the Friends of Boone Trace, you can become a member, make donations. Just visit BooneTrace1775.com. Visit the site. Lots of information on there, and you can become a supporter. You can only imagine this thing pouring water. There'd be a great little waterfalls right there, and a cascade falls right up through there. And then the trace running right up the hill there, right up through there. This is private property. It's been set aside in a land trust to preserve Boone Trace for generations to come. I'm not sure who the gentleman is that owns the land, but he's a great guy in my book to set aside this property for historic preservation. We're mighty lucky to have him and this land for future generations to enjoy and to study the history of Daniel Boone. Beautiful valley there with a wet weather creek running through the middle of it. Doing the old uphill out of here. All right, back here on the little short lane back to the Windy Gap Base Camp. Boone Trace makes its way through. That's a heck of an uphill hike coming back out of that ravine that leads down toward Crooked Creek. Not for the faint of heart, but beautiful country nonetheless. And back here is the Windy Gap Base Camp, which is owned by the Friends of Boone Trace. Become a supporter. Join today. Donate to them as your heart desires.